the latest effort in Warner Brothers' MonsterVerse, Godzilla and Kong: The New Empire. So, I obviously haven't seen this entire franchise. I didn't see the first Godzilla, I didn't see Skull Island, but I did see King of the Monsters, and I, of course, reviewed the first Godzilla vs. Kong. I thought King of the Monsters was pretty bad. It had some good action, but that's about it. And I thought Godzilla vs. Kong, I was a little too kind to my review. What I think of it now is decent action, good effects. Human characters are garbage. And they have, of course, they had the stupid podcaster character that Ghostbusters Afterlife also had, but did much better. We'll get to him a little bit later, because of course he's in this movie too. But that's not it. Apparently, Monarch Legacy of Monsters, a show that came out last year that I haven't seen, everybody's told me I should see it, but I haven't, is pretty good. And that's also connected to this. And there's also an animated show called something. Was it just called Skull Island, I think? I don't remember. But it was a prequel to Kong Skull Island, I'm pretty sure. I've heard it's good, never seen it. I didn't even know it was actually connected to this. So now we have this film. And I am never sure what to make of these movies. Because I can tell what's usually going to be good is the action and effects. But then you know the human characters are just going to be there to take up space. And I was both right and wrong in this scenario. So let's start with the problems I have. Because I don't have that many. Because this is actually a pretty solid movie. Probably the best film we've gotten so far this year. Which is kind of a depressing thought, actually. Not that these movies can't be good, but considering this is the best one we've gotten in almost 4 months now, it's a little depressing. But there are issues, and the first one is surprisingly the CGI. I don't know what happened here, but the CGI is not good. Not all the time. Sometimes it looks pretty good. But there are so many times where even when the monster... Usually when it's just the monsters on screen, it's supposed to look pretty good. That's honestly when I think the effects looked like their worst. Like, there was a fight in the Hollow World between Kong and some, like, eel monster in a lake. And while they're fighting, the background looked like just a static background. Almost looked like they had a matte painting put up, and then put the CGI puppets in front of it. I wouldn't be shocked if that's what actually happened here, because honestly, that's not the worst idea, but it was glaringly obvious. Which is weird because the landscapes and everything look fantastic. Like, the design and everything, they look great, but then you have the CGI monsters in front of it, all of a sudden it looks really static and boring. And speaking of static and boring, the human characters. Good lord. Now, I don't mind human characters in these when they're here to further the plot. What human characters should be in these is... I usually don't like when characters are used as plot devices, like how Grover was in the Percy Jackson and Olympian series, because he was just an exposition fairy. But that's what they should be in these kinds of movies. They don't need to be here taking up 90% of the film. Apparently, that was a big drawback from the first Godzilla movie, where they kept cutting away from the action to focus on the human characters. That happened in Godzilla vs. Kong a couple times too, where I was really invested in the action, and then halfway through the fight, it cuts back to the boring-ass human characters. And most of the ones from the last movie are back. The person who works for Monarch, I don't remember her name, she's here. Her mute daughter, adopted daughter, who was part of this tribe that's no longer around, she's still here. And it got worse with this character. Like, I didn't mind this character as just a means to talk to Kong. I don't know why she's the only one who can, because it looks like he understands basic sign language, but whatever. They kind of imply in this movie that she can telepathically understand what he's saying, and that gets a little more prevalent and stupider later on, but I'll get to that in a little bit. And the other human characters are not good. Brian Tyree Henry is back, the stupid podcast guy that I talked about. He's here, and he's just as annoying as he was in the last movie. Oh my god. Why is this guy here? You cut this guy, you miss nothing. Absolutely nothing. Except a bunch of annoying screaming and shouting throughout the entire time, and some jackass holding a camera in a life or death situation. That's all you miss, and that would have made the movie better, actually. Because this guy is just here to fill a void, and he's here to be the comic relief, really, but he's annoying as fuck. Every once in a while, there'll be a funny line out of some of the other characters. I don't think I laughed at a single one of this guy's jokes. So that brings me to the script itself. And oddly enough, not oddly enough, I should say, because this isn't odd at all, but I should say ironically enough, the writing is good when there's no dialogue. Because with Kong's storyline, although I should mention before I get into Kong's storyline, Godzilla's barely in this movie. Once again, he's just kind of a plot device here. He doesn't really he just kills some titans early on. I will say the visual of him sleeping in the Coliseum made me laugh the first time I saw it. That was legitimately funny. But he just kills a couple titans and then fights Kong for like a minute and then teams up with him to fight the big bad at the end. I assumed this would be more of a big team-up, but it's only a team-up in the last 5 minutes of the film. And I'll get to that fight later, but back to the script. Like I said, when there's no dialogue, it's pretty good. Because Kong's storyline, he finds this, like, they call him Mini Kong once, so I shall do likewise. He finds a really small ape who's part of this big empire of apes that are down there. And he kind of takes him under his wing, takes care of him, kind of like God of War is what I was kind of reminded by, where Kong is Kratos and Mini Kong is it Atreyu or something like? No, that's from Neverending Story. The kid from God of War. I don't remember his name. I've only played one of those games, so I don't remember. Or is it Atreus or something like that? You know what I mean. If you've played the games, you know who I mean. It kind of becomes like that for a little bit, and honestly, I was having a lot more fun with that storyline. I was more interested in that than the dumbass human character storyline. And let's get to that. So in the Hollow World, they find the little girl's tribe, who can all communicate telepathically. Because, yeah, I know the Titans are a little, not realistic, let's put it that way, but now we have literal magic in this, and now we're starting to push it. Believe it or not, I can suspend my disbelief for sci-fi with a giant ape and a lizard that can breathe energy, I guess. But it starts to get stretched way too far when you add in telepathic people that can manipulate the gravity of the Hollow World with these pyramids. It makes no sense. It's never really explained. But this is where the plot with the kid gets really stupid. Because she's no longer just their means of communicating with the giant monkey. Now she's some messiah of the Titans. That'd actually be a cool name for the next movie. But she is literally just some messiah for the Titans, and I don't mean that as a jab. She literally calls upon this, like, ancient Titan that looks like a giant moth, or maybe, I think it's supposed to be a butterfly, but it looks like a moth. And she uses that to convince Godzilla to team up with Kong to fight back, and the butterfly moth thing does plenty of fighting itself. So yeah, that's what these movies have kind of dropped to. And that is honestly one of the things that's the thing that drags this movie down the most, is the stupid subplot that wasn't interesting, didn't make any sense, and just kind of, it was too far, was the problem. And I never for 1 second thought the kid was going to stay with the tribe. That was some really stupid conflict, because we all knew she was going to go back with the chick who works for Monarch. Dan Stevens' character's back, I forgot to mention him. He's around. He's likable, at least, which is more than I can say for most of the other characters in this movie. He's at least fun. Let's think. Oh yeah, the action sequences. Most of them are pretty good. Especially the fight. I like the fight between Kong and the first time he encounters the other apes. That was a pretty cool action sequence. Although it was a little weird where he knocks him off a cliff and then saves him. And then the monkey tries to attack him again, and he just kicks him off the cliff again. So, I don't know why that was added in. Could have just let him fall the first time. But the final battle is where things got better and worse. The fight in Hollow World was pretty cool. Again, minus that stupid glowing moth. The fight was pretty cool, and I liked that Mini Kong wasn't just a plot device throughout the movie. He actually did help in the final battle and was pretty cool. He even destroyed the little dagger that the other ape used to control this ancient Godzilla-looking Pokemon thing. The thing, it's like creates an aura of ice. It can breathe ice. It's really weird. I don't remember what it's called, but yeah, it just looked like a Pokemon. But, and yeah, the fight was pretty cool, but then they ruin it by going to the human world, whatever you want to call it, the Earth's surface. They don't really have, like, an alternate name for it like they do for Hollow World, so I'm just gonna call it the human world. They go back there just so they can do the generic Godzilla and Kong thing of destroying a big city. This time it's Rio de Janeiro. But why? The setting of the Hollow World was so much cooler to watch. And yeah, it just kind of looked like a generic cave with woods inside of it, but I liked the backgrounds. I liked looking at it more than I liked them just destroying another city. And again, it's one of those where you don't really get a sense of how much danger people are in other than the first, like, 30 seconds of the fight because nobody's around. And it's just them, and it becomes Man of Steel, and is just them blowing up a bunch of shit, and there's not even a resolution to that. I mean, even, you look at the Avengers movies, they have a lot of destruction to scenes. Like the first one, they destroy New York. The second one, they blow up an entire city. In Winter Soldier, they crash a bunch of helicarriers into Washington, D.C. But there are consequences to that, maybe not in the immediate film, but there became consequences later. This one, they at least acknowledge all the damage that happened. This one, it's just ignored. Like, the movie just kind of ends. Like, Kong goes back with Mini Kong, and he becomes the ruler of that ape empire, officially becoming King Kong, I guess. And then the movie just ends. Just like that. Like, no resolution, the movie just kind of stops. Okay? The musical score for this was pretty good. It's not like one of my all-time favorites or anything, but it's pretty damn solid. And it's done by Tom Holkenborg, aka Junkie XL. I'm usually not a huge fan of his scores, but he did pretty well with this movie. So this is a pretty solid movie. I know I've been feeling like I've been kind of crapping on the movie, but it's a really solid watch. Again, probably not something I'll ever watch again, but for a one-time viewing, for a matinee, you could do worse. Well, I've already shown this year you can do worse. You could do Madam Web, you could do American Society of Man, that movie's so bad I couldn't even get the title out without stuttering. American Society of Go Fuck Yourself. You could do so much worse than this movie. So that's all I got. I'm gonna give Godzilla and Kong: A New Empire, or The New Empire, a C+. So yeah, that's all I got, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.